So this inside edge right here, the skate, was sharp, but it had a tilt error with a bat gauge or a square. It wasn't square to the rest of the blade. So the customer said they felt weird. So to the finger, they felt like they're sharp, but if you transition from the center of the blade to the rear, the bite changed. So for clarity here, that mark right there is 1 inch. That's a skate lace at the top. There's 2 inches right there, and there's 3 inches. Okay, this is looking at the right skate, about the last 1.5 inches here. And this part here, I did do 12 passes in order to get the heel region to get a burr on here. Same thing with the toe due to this tangent error. They came sharpened from somebody else. They were sharp in the center, but there was no edge in the heel area and the toe area. And so after I did a bunch of passes on a self-centering machine, I do have a burr here. So they were sharp, they just had a whoop-de-doo, which I'll show later in the video. This is a close-up. These are 3mm blades. This pair of new skates I just got in was sharpened from where they bought them online. They feel sharp in most places, but they've got a little bit of weirdness. If you assume this is like a bat gauge, they're perpendicular here, and when you get over to the edge, they're like this. Then it goes straight, and then it tilts over. So I think this was probably sharpened on a sharpener where they had the skate holder tilted up, so you have an error from the side view, where along most of the place with the large radius, they're right on the money, but then over here you have a turn down error. That's what you get with a skate holder in a tabletop machine, where the skate is actually tilted up like this instead of going straight into the wheel. If it's tilted up like this or tilted down, you can get the center to be right on the money, and then you'll get an error that does something like this. Let me just, it'll be on the money here in the center with the bat gauge or with a square, and then you get to where this curves down on here, you'll get an error that does this. And right over here, I've done a couple passes right now on a machine that's got a self-centering clamp, and there's an area right through here it still hasn't sharpened up yet, and also over here. And so I was kind of like, hadn't seen something like this in a while. But so they said they skated on these, and there was a couple places that were bad, but this is not, it's a little bit of a strange thing. So I don't know if they came from the factory like that, or I think they said their vendor they bought them from did that. Okay, for clarity, here's a grind disc. It's worn down, but over here you've got where the radius of curvature kind of bulges out on here. So this error is to where when you're on the straight, mostly straight portion, you'll hit in the center of this. And when you go over here, if you have a tangent error with a holder, you're either going to hit high on the stone or low on the stone. So this is a little bit too small. Let's just use a piece of roll of tape. You're hitting in different portions stone as you go along here if the skate here has got an excessive tilt in the holder. Either with a tri-light holder, it's got 3 knobs, or a tangent finder type. So if I take this, let's just use this lube stuff here. So the side view of the stone is rounded like that because you've dressed it with the diamond. So for clarity, if the skate is going straight on like this, you're going to hit the bulge out part of the stone. But if you have a tangent error, you can either tend to run a little bit low or a little bit high. And that's because instead of the skate being like this, I'm exaggerating, it's really like this. So when you're going along here, if the blade was perfectly straight, it's going to hit the solid black line. But as you go down here, you're actually running more like at the dotted line. And that's kind of a gross error you get. And so that's probably what's happened here, why this has got like this, and then it went like that. So it went like this, and the bat gauge to level, back to this cord through here. A little bit strange, but stuff happens. So this inside edge right here, the skate, was sharp, but it had a tilt error with a bat gauge or a square. It wasn't square to the rest of the blade. So the customer said they felt weird. So to the finger, they felt like they're sharp, but if you transition from the center of the blade to the rear, the bite changed. So for clarity here, that mark right there is 1 inch. That's a skate lace at the top. There's 2 inches right there, and there's 3 inches. So from about at least 3 inches, there's 2 to 1. There was a tilt error, so it's such that it felt unsharp unless you healed back over some. So that's kind of a weirdness due to probably when these were sharpened, they had it in a sharpener that was tilted over. The blade holder was tilted over, either done at the factory or when the merchandiser sharpened these. So for clarity, this is the inside edge of a right skate. That's 1 inch from the rear, 2 inches from the rear, 3 inches from the rear. And that's a size 5.5 skate. And they came pre-sharpened, supposedly. They felt sharp to the finger, but then when I went through with the square, they were whoop-de-dooed, where they were sharp in the center of the blade. They were square, but over here, they had a tilt to them toward the rear end on the heel and on the toe. If I go way over here and find the end of the blade, see if I can and open the lens up. The wonder of manual focus. That area there was goofed up too. So that was tilted the same way as the part that's right here. And in the center of the blade, these are exactly dead nuts perpendicular to the blade. In the center of the blade, the stock sharpening they had was right on the money. And this part that's back here had a tilt to it. And it had the same tilt is the part here in the front. Right through here. So that's why I'm guessing it's a tangent error.